we're going to open up for questions.
We've got microphones. There's 3 mics around the room. If you could identify yourself and your affiliation with a question.
Hi, Dave. Sam Khan, ESPN. Just curious if you had a chance to meet with the team yet, and if so, what's your message to them?
I did. I thought it was, you know, when I was standing in front of them, you could tell how close of a team they were. You could see the togetherness and the cohesiveness that was evident in that game film or that TV copy film we were looking at. And so I told them that I wanted to earn their trust and I want to be a part of them.
Hey, Coach. Matt
Hey.
Roberts, Fox 44. Welcome to Waco. You talked about a little bit your connections and your time spent in this state. How much does that help, not only in recruiting, but as you do try to assemble your staff?
No, it does. I think right when I think of Texas, I think of the Texas High School Football Coaches Association. I think of the strength that lies in a high school student athlete coming out of Texas and their development and their knowledge, right? The hard work that goes into going through 4 years of high school and graduating, winning championships. And so I think that's a big piece. I think the knowledge I have of the coaches throughout the state is good. We're going to get it, so it's great. I've spoken at a bunch of clinics. I think I'm speaking at the Lone Star Clinic here coming up. And so our goal is to get around the state and talk to them about Baylor football.
Chuck Carlton, Dallas Morning News. Dave, as a coordinator, what do you see as maybe the biggest hurdle or the most difficult thing, the biggest challenge in becoming a head coach? And also from that standpoint, do you still plan on calling the defensive signals?
I think whenever you're making a move from, let's say, a position coach to a coordinator, or you're making a move from a coordinator to a head coach, you, in anticipation of that move, prepare and prepare and prepare. And I think there's things that you do outside of being in the office and being amongst your team to prepare. You can go study with other people. You can read a book on it. You can call other people to get their input on it. You can be alert in meetings, because one of the greatest education you have is right in front of you. I think if you pay attention to the details of what happens in the day-to-day and think in bigger terms of where you're at, whether it's position coach to coordinator or coordinator to head coach, I think those are things you can do to prepare. And in saying that, I do believe that with all the preparation that you can go into it, there's going to be something that will happen where you're not prepared and you haven't thought of it. And so I think when it gets to that point, you open up, communicate with the people around you, right, and the people that you value, and lean on them to come to a cohesive thought to get through it. I've always been one where it's what is, in this instance, what is best for Baylor. And it's not it wouldn't be what is my idea or what's his idea or what's your idea, what's the best. So I think in that context, I think the working relationship with Mac and our staff is vitally important.
Hey, Dave, Suzanne Halliburton, Austin American Statesman. First, I'm glad y'all are making gumbo because I love that stuff. And second, I've read a lot that you like to dictate on defense, that you like to dictate to an offense. I'm curious, you've been around a lot of coaches, offensive coaches with all sorts of various styles. So what will your offense be like here at Baylor?
I'd like for the offense to be the things, or to have the element of putting pressure on the defense at all times. So we can do that by formation. We can do that by personnel groups. We can do that by tempo. We want the defense to have to defend every blade of grass. We want to be on the attack. And so I believe with college football nowadays, and this is going to be probably a defensive, this is a defensive guy talking, but I think the rules in college football allow for advantages on offense in terms of when the ball can be snapped and you're going to the line of scrimmage with a play based upon the look you're playing it, based upon the look you're changing it, the tempo piece, the ability to run with a quarterback and outnumber the defense. These are all things that we would like to maximize on. The second thing I would say would be you'd like for your offense to feature your best players. And so to identify what our guys do best and then put our guys in the best position to succeed. And then off of those strong tendencies, have curveballs and changeups where it looks the same and it plays out different. I think you have those things and you're on your way.
Stephen Hawkins with the AP. Coach, you've got a direct connection to 3 other Big 12 coaches at different stages, having been a roommate with Tom Herman, having worked for Les Miles, and I think you and Matt Wells were at Utah State at the same time. Talk about your relationship with them, and have you reached out to any of them and talked to them about where you're at and what you're doing? And the second part question I've got is just, you mentioned Coach O and your head coaches you've been around. Talk about what you take out of those coaches.
Okay. I remember Tom on my recruiting trip. I was telling this story of Tom was my host, and I remember just like in our conversation, I just never really had the chance to say too much. It was just Tom and I have got a great relationship. I really like Tom, and I want him to have success outside of when we play him. And Tom and I used to talk a lot, more on just the football part. He would always be my main go-to guy on what is up and coming with offenses. These are the latest trends. This is where kind of the game is going. And I used to love those talks. And here recently, we can't have those talks anymore. But I value Tom's friendship. Matt, when we were together at Utah State, Matt and his family are just salt of the earth, great people. Our family had a real connection with Matt and his family, and I'm so happy for him. I think, Matt and I have talked throughout just about things like culture, team chemistry, ways to run a program, ways to run a practice. I think Matt is a big thinker, and Matt's going to have success there at Tech. I'm proud of him. And then Coach Miles, I love. And so, I don't know if there's a coach out there that has a bigger heart than Les. And I'm very appreciative for Les for bringing my family and I to LSU. He took a chance on me. And I'll always remember our talks during the season when times were tough and kind of the walls were kind of closing in. Les always had a bright, sunny bright, sunny personality about him. He never let, the cold rain come in, so to speak. And I'm always grateful for him for that. Those were some tough times. I think it was with 16. And then Coach O, Coach O was so wide open is what I appreciated about him. Is that, and I imagine y'all see it too, and I appreciate that about him. That, you know, when we talk about all these coaches, and I know for a time I would reflect just on you know, how I'm built, and go, you know, is a head coach something that you want to do? And I would see these other coaches that are just, you know, they're built differently than I am. And whether it's Mike Leach or Gary Anderson or Paul Chris or Les Miles or Coach Orgeron, you know, when you can be yourself and feel confident in who you are and love on your players and build connections, those connections will get through and be strong. And so you saw that with Coach O, and the way that he empowered our staff and empowered that community there in Baton Rouge. Some of those bus rides for that championship game were crazy, and I give Coach O a lot of the credit for that. It was all him.
A couple more.
Okay.
Dave, Kirk Bowles from the Austin American. Did you take the job before you knew 9 defensive starters are gone? And the other thing is that you're being a defensive coach in an offensive league. Advantage or disadvantage for you?
I knew of the defensive departures. I look at the student athletes that have played and the playing time that they had last year, and the experience that is coming back, I think is something to build upon. I think you know, there's good recruiting classes that are in the wings that are ready to make their mark. I think defense will be a strength this year. And then the second part of your question was, I'm sorry. Yes, the offense, yeah. I think some of that is changing, I feel. I think with some of the, I think that's still true, and I believe that to be true. But I think there is an advent of defenses here, whether it was Baylor or I thought in watching film from last year, I thought Kansas State did a lot of good things on defense, and I feel and Iowa State's done good things on defense. I think that defense in this league is making a comeback, and I'd like to be at the forefront of that.
David Smoke, ESPN Central Texas. Dave, the recruiting timeline with National Signing Day upon us.
Yes.
How quickly or how important is that with you establishing your staff?
It is. I think, you know, along with that, I think that we want to be able to make sure on both ends of it that we get the right people. And so, you know, you'd like to have everybody in place and everybody committed and in a certain time, but more important than that, I believe, is making sure that the right people are here, whether it's commitments to us or whether it's staff being in place. And so I think the discussions that we've had on both sides of it, the staff coming together and the recruiting part, have been very good. And I feel good about the pace of where it's going, because we're going to identify and get the right people. All right, thank you. Appreciate you guys.